we're taking advantage of a little bit of time tonight. Been straightening up a little bit. Got some guys coming over tomorrow. It's going to be pretty nice out. We're going to do a little bit more cleanup in here because the Henry J is coming soon, because the weather is not going to hold forever. So we got to get stuff put away so we have room for the Henry J. And I figure right now, one of the biggest things I could do with my time is go ahead and get the crank out of here, get the pistons out of here, and get it ready so that maybe, because it might be 50 degrees on Wednesday, and if it is, that would be a great day to hit this with the pressure washer and knock off a lot of the grease and garbage. And we'll bust out a bucket of WD-40 and start cleaning and sealing after that. So that's where we're at. Well, you can see, you know, they're 12 points, so you got to use those. I just loosen them, and then ever so lightly, you just start kind of tapping, not beating, never beat on rods, but you tap them a little bit, and eventually they come apart. And then I'm keeping track of where they are, and then we just slide the pistons out. It's not that complicated. So I will bring this back up if anything comes up, or once the pistons are all out. Okay, all the rods are out. Sitting down here, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. What we want to do real quick is just kind of look at some indexing. So you can see compression ring is there. That one's close, but you know, it's almost 90 degrees out, or probably 70 degrees out. So, but remember, one was one of the ones that was a little dirty. Let's see, so we got one there, and these two are in line. Alright. Those two are directly in line. Of course, I don't know if that's happening while we're taking them apart. Yeah, look at that. And then look at that piston. Look how gross that is. Yeah. Well, I guess with the crosshatch on this one, they're rotating. I know it depends on the motor, but let's see. I'm looking, and I'm definitely seeing complete lines around those. So at this point, that's where we're at. As far as I know, every bearing I looked at looked great. You know, I don't see any issues on the crank itself, you know, so all the rod journals look freaking pretty decent. There's no scratching, no scuffing, no overheating. So I think we're gonna level her out and get ready to pull the crank out. So I'll pop her back up. Oh, here you can see, now right here you see that's the drive shaft for the eccentric. You know, it rides on the cam to drive the mechanical fuel pump. So I think we'll pop that out in just a second. But you can see just how close those weights come to the cam itself. So, alright, give me a few minutes. Just like we did on the cylinder heads, these are torqued in a sequence. So we want to go to the anti-sequence. So we're going to go doom, 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 all the way around and just crack them all. And then we're going to loosen them all. And then we're going to remove them. We don't want to warp anything. We also want to verify that these are marked, and if they aren't, we will mark them, because the caps have to go back in the exact same spot. They were line honed that way. So at some point, these caps are on here in raw, and they honed this bore, and that is very, very critical that the caps go back where they belong. Okay, last bearings, shell is coming off here. We got her tapped free. Now we knew this leaked. Well, we dropped a bolt. Looks like it was installed correctly. You know, no complaints there. None of the bearings have looked bad at all. Everything's looking fine. But that's not why this is coming apart. So, I think we're going to invest in some ARP bolts. We're getting ready to pull her out. But before we do, just kind of looking. See if anything looks suspicious. No, I feel nothing sticky. I mean, just the weight of the ratchet's enough to spin it. Yeah, because overall the engine was running just fine. So this isn't a part of what we're worried about. So let's go ahead and pull that off. And then that crank's about to be laying in that box. I'll show you in just a second, because, you know, they're never fun. Okay, we've got this all set aside for inspection and cleanup. Going to change bearings, even though they all look fine. There's nothing wrong. But, you know, engine's open. They are not expensive. It's hard to put used parts back in that are so cheap. We will pull all the galley plugs, so when we clean it we can run the brushes through. I do have engine brushes. But yeah, there's a 4-bolt block sitting here ready to be cleaned up. Okay, we've got that sitting there waiting to be cleaned. Head's waiting to be cleaned. Cam is absolutely not being reused. Look at those lobes. I've never seen on-off switches in a cam before. Those things are crazy. Intake needs cleaned. Valve covers need cleaned. Water pump needs cleaned. God, everything needs cleaned. Transmission, I mean, everything needs cleaned up. You know, look at this starter. And that was that front seal leaking like crazy. That's why we're not even going to reuse that. We're going to get a new one. I'll waste more time cleaning it than my time is worth. So, no, that's where we're at. Alright, I don't have a graduated cylinder or a beret, but what I do have is calibrated syringes, or calibrated close enough. And since I have a laser cutter, of course I have a nice plate. Put a couple holes in it to fill it. I've got Vaseline down to kind of help. And we need to know, is this a 62cc head or is this a 72cc head? I'm really hoping it's a bigger chamber, because if it's the smaller chamber, we're running a really close to 13-to-1 compression in this motor. And that is not what I want. If that's the case with those hyper pistons, the only reason it lived is because of the massive overlap on this cam. So we did 10. Here's another 10. And then, yeah, I mean, look at that thing. On-off valve. So there's 20. And don't worry where the black line is. Only worry where the actual water is. See, the black is at 10, but the water isn't. So there. Drippy, drippy. Here will be 30. And I'm doing it nice and slow. So there's 30. Boy, this is looking an awful lot like a small chamber. And if that's the case, we got some things we got to decide. Okay, so 30. 40. Might explain why they use such a thick freaking gasket too. Oh, wait, that's doing that. There we go. So that'll be 50. So see, she's starting to come up. Yeah, 62 is where we're going to wind up, I think. So I'm going to put... So there is 60. Surface tension will keep it under the plate as long as I go nice and slow. So see, there is 59, 60, yeah. And then remembering that there's some buildup on those if I try to add 2 more. This is definitely a 62cc head. That really is going to cause us some issues. In fact, it might even be slightly decked. But I've got a little air bubble trapped right here. So that is a 62cc version of this head, because I still haven't heard back from Chick-fil-A. The number stamped on it is 29497-3, and it's made from A353, and I think this one said B353 if I recall. But yeah, that's a small chamber head. So I'm very, very nervous. Oh no, yeah, over here it does say A353. So this one says 29507-3. So those might be serial numbers. either which way, these are Trick Flow 195 angle, large oval exhaust port, standard valve. You know, it looks like 20216. Didn't measure them, and 62 cc. So that's what I needed to know. I was hoping to find out without having to get to this point. There's no way I'm going to put another 10 cc's in there, so I've got to do some thinking. Here's hoping some of those guys are down in the hole, but it sure didn't look like it. If they are, it's not by much, you know, maybe 6 mils, because this has been cut once. So yeah, we got to play with that a little bit and see what we're going to do for the cam. You know, static and dynamic compressions are different. You know, obviously the dynamic compression with that large cam is very different than the static that you would measure just with closed valves. But yeah, this is going to be something. We gotta get this sorted out. We don't want to break any of those pistons. Okay, using my favorite little application on Summit, because math is math and this makes it easy. We happen to know we're 40 over. We know we got a 375 stroke. We know I have a 62 cc head. We happen to know because they're H860 CP 40 over Speed Pro pistons that they have a 4 cc valve relief. So you're going to add +4 because it's relief. It's down into the cylinder. I'm going to assume a generous 6 mil deck clearance. They had a 41 mil gasket. It is a V8. You know, what do you do? 11.4 to 1 compression, 11.5 to 1 compression is not our favorite choice here. So we will work at that. And out of idle curiosity, I know it hurts our quench a little bit. Yeah, even if I go to a 53 mil gasket, you know, we're still 11 to 1 compression. So we've just gotta make sure we're cautious with our cam choice here. You know, we already know this engine was hot. We don't want to keep it that way. All right, we're locking down for the night. Bent69 project is, you know, it is what it is. I still think we're probably going to wind up going down one of the Voodoo cams. I've got a cam from Lunati that I know with these heads and this combination would easily put 525 down, but it's not going to have the sound that I think Bartley wants. And honestly, I think he's going to be happy giving up 20 horsepower to get that rumpity idle. So I think, against my better judgment, I am most likely going to do what's going to make him happier instead of being what I think is ideal, because it is, you know, in the long run, it is his money. And I want to put a smile on his face when he's driving the car. So, with these heads, with a 53 mil MLS gasket, you know, we're still going to have to keep a reasonable LSA. I mean, we're not going to go to a 114, so we're probably looking at a 110 LSA. I'd still like to take advantage of the lift these heads are capable of. We have 560 now. I'd like to stay in that range. You know, I don't want on-off valves because that's what that is. But I'm definitely thinking something. One of the Voodoo grinds sounds really mean, and I think that is most likely the cam we're going to go with. So I will actually be seeing him tomorrow. We're doing some shop cleanup tomorrow. So Kevin and Cheryl, you know, the Pontiac project, they're coming tomorrow. I think Harlan, the guy who's Henry J's going to wind up here in Bartley, will be here tomorrow afternoon. So with everybody coming, we'll do a little cleanup in here, get ready for the Henry. I think at that point we can kind of have a discussion, decide what direction we're going to go here.